storerooms.
All right, welcome everyone. Buckle up, be prepared for a short but brief, but really good. Hopefully you'll take away one thing out of this. And what I tell everyone is don't try to go back and do everything. You know, whatever webinar you listen to, if you identify one thing that you think would help your organization, take that one and implement it because it adds value to your organization. Okay, so I'm going to ask a question right now. Okay, and I expect everyone to send chat their answer in, which you look at the screen, and these actually come from a company. All right, so this is how their storeroom looks. So on the left, top left, what do you think about consumables and also special tools being kitted like that, where you have to use your badge and or your number to get one, and then you have to, like with the, especially with the tools, you have to bring them back that day. What do you think about that?
We got one, Ronald saying that he likes it. Anyone else? Duncan says, good idea, but time consuming, I feel.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's difficult sometimes to get to that because the cost of it is very expensive. What about to the right? You know, you see the shelves are marked with a number, a letter, designate. So what that means is that each part that's in the storeroom has been identified a location. So when you go into CMMS, you can be able to identify where the part is located. So in a breakdown, you can go into the storeroom, you can find the parts, and then you can get out quickly. Now, let's talk about proactive, because planning and scheduling is going to be the most critical part of it. So in this case, I didn't show it in here, but what organizations have is a secure place to put these parts for the scheduled work that's coming up. And no one should have access to that but the maintenance planner. You know, unless if you got to need it in the middle of the night, you'll have to wake up your maintenance manager and get him to authorize you to go into the storeroom. All right. So let's move on. So what is the storeroom mission? The mission of the MRO storeroom, you know, is to provide the right part at the right time in light new condition. Now, light new condition. What percentage of your parts in your storeroom are light new condition? Everybody, give me an answer on that one.
We have 40% question mark, 80%. Waiting on any other answers.
Anybody else?
20%.
That's why you're here, right? That's why you the video. Well, I tell you, the in your storeroom, the only thing should be in the storeroom are new parts, or the ones that have been rebuilt and certified that they are like a motor, electric motor. You don't want to have used motors in a storeroom, and I've seen it many times. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that parts that are in the storeroom are like new. They're ready to be checked out and implemented and executed to give us the reliable assets we have. And one of the things to talk about is the right part, you know, having that right part that meets specifications, not buying the cheapest thing. I was at a plant recently. I won't say when because somebody might be on this program that was at the plant I was at. But one of the things that we found was that they had substandard parts they were buying for certain things. And the maintenance people were complaining about it, but management wasn't listening because it was the lowest cost. Well, the lowest cost was costing them a lot of failures. That doesn't make sense. I want the best value. The best value in a part means the part that delivers what we expect at the best price. Okay. But the part has to be the specification. It has to be. All right. So if you look down below, you see the chart I have. So let's look at maintenance cost in a typical world-class maintenance organization. So maintenance cost is the percentage of replacement and asset value is the international standard for where you are in your cost. Okay. So this is maintenance cost, includes labor, materials, contract maintenance, capital replacements, and maintenance, replacing worn out assets because they were never properly maintained. So you look at typical 3.5 to 9% Okay. We go to world class is 2 to 3%. So that means you're spending huge amount of money if you're typical compared to world class. Okay. Now let's go to spare parts. Okay. Material parts, material cost as a replacement asset value, 1% to 3.5%. And you look over how low this one is, 0.25 to 0.75%. It's massive. It's a massive amount of difference. So let's just talk about some of the symptoms of effective storeroom. These pictures are actual pictures I took in a storeroom, not this week. Okay. The environmental parts material are kept, but do not meet requirements of manufacturer. Manufacturer says like a V-belt should never be hung one thing straight down. It should be rolled up and stored on a shelf. So any of you have that problem? Do your belts, your timing belts and your V-belts just drop down on a loop, hanging in the storeroom? Anybody?
We got a couple answers here. It says, pretty sure any of our warehouses have V-belts hanging on pegboards.
Yeah.
Every one of them, LOL.
Read the manufacturer's recommendations. They're not, I know they want to sell you more belts and you're helping them out a lot, but we got to look at what is best storage practices. They should be rolled up on a shelf. Okay. The environment, you don't want to have the humidity too high, too low, too hot. It needs to be controlled. That's a big deal. Otherwise, belts will start to crack. But now, if you think about this, if I'm using belts a lot, I'm not maybe too worried about it. But maybe if I start improving reliability of my assets, then maybe I do need to do that. Probably none of you have this. Used parts stored in the storeroom. It was a used motor. I took this picture too. The plant used motor. It's the spare motor. How long do you think that motor will last? Somebody tell me. This is actually was in a storeroom, not this week, but how long do you think this motor will last? Somebody give me an idea. And I'll tell you what, a new motor, what one that's maintained, it should last 15 to 20 years. But how long would this motor last? Give me your best guess.
We have 1 to 2 months if you're lucky.
Yeah. It might be times you put it in, it fails immediately. I don't get it. In this plant, what they did was they sent the motors out to be rebuilt. The smaller motors, they went ahead and once they got new ones in, new motor in, then they got rid of the old ones. Now, how do you store a motor? A large horsepower motor, I'm talking about, this is my recommendation. If you got anything for 25 horsepower above, you should have vibration pads underneath it in the storeroom. The reason for that is because the floor in all plants vibrate. So if it's vibrating, like this, that bearing is going up and down. Okay. So the vibration pad softens that. But you need a PM in the storeroom. And in this case, on large horsepower motors, one technician should go to the store, or you could have a storeroom do it. Rotate the shaft 1 1/4 turns every 30 days. Rotate the shaft 1 1/4 turns. That means a PM comes up for the storeroom to go and rotate the shafts 1 1/4 turns. Now it can't go one turn, because if you do it all the way around to 12 o'clock, back to 12 o'clock, you might not have it exactly on that turn. You want to go past the 12 o'clock point. Lack of inventory control. Same place you see these, we see this. Okay. So what we're doing is we got a piece of paper, and when you check something out, make sure you write it up on our little clipboard there to make sure it covers it. As totally. Let me go back. Let me think. Let's see. When I went to work at a company in 1980, this was a requirement. Our storeroom was not a death trap. Our storeroom was very much up to specification. Why? Because they didn't want to lose money. They didn't want to have parts and components and equipment sitting around that would not function. And that place was called Alcoa Mount Holly, which is the world-class model. All parts, this should be what you should take back from this one thing. All parts must be charged to an asset. all parts. Okay, parts that have to do with just cleaning the shop or whatever, don't worry about that. But all parts for a machine have to be charged to an asset. All right, I want everyone to answer this one. Do you agree or not? Doesn't mean you haven't, but do you agree or not? Everyone answer that question. We got 17 on, so come on. These 17 answers, or 15 answers, sorry.
We got one agree. Yes. Agree. Anyone else? We got one response that says BOM is a great help.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it's unbelievable. That we got to start writing work orders for them, right? And then inventory, now stored to manufacturer specification, has to be stored to manufacturer specifications. Okay, not hanging V belts down like you see there. 5 guiding principles for effective storeroom. Pretty simple. Store only parts that have a link to an asset or piece of equipment, with exception of operating and production supplies. Promote physical security for your parts. Treat them as if that were your personal checkbook. Lock storeroom card access. Now, one of the things I did with my storeroom when I was a maintenance manager was that I had a card key access. So what you would do is you punch your code in. You got a special code. You punch it in, and then when you opened the storeroom gate, a noise went off. It was and then that means you had to go in and close the gate behind you very fast. The reason for that, I didn't want vagrants going in the storeroom. You know those people are. They're hanging out by the storeroom. So when someone goes in to check something out, they can go in and get the part they need because they're too lazy to write a work order and charge it to the asset. It doesn't make sense. Okay. I want physical security control. I want to make sure I know who's been in there, how long they've been in, and so on. Now, one of the things they did at one company, I know you'll probably be surprised at this one, that I was working with, and they decided to put a camera in the storeroom just so they can monitor who's going in the storeroom. It wasn't locked. It was just, they want to know who went in the storeroom. And it was funny. One guy went in, he goes in and he picks up, he comes in with a paper bag over his head. He's got eyes cut out. He goes running in the storeroom. He grabs a fastener, picks it up, thumbs up, and runs out the storeroom. The next morning when I came in, the plant manager said, "Ricky, you got to see this camera." I'm like, "Yeah." What does that tell you about your storeroom? Storeroom security is a joke. Okay. We got to solve that problem. We got to fix it. Staff your storeroom the same hours as production if stockouts are common. You don't have to do it all the time. Card key's fine. But if you can't do the technology side of it, have someone in the storeroom 24/7. Okay. And you could, so well, we can't hire more people. That's okay. Get a temporary person. Okay. If you got storeroom problems, your maintenance organization is probably very reactive. Just assign a maintenance person to the storeroom. Show them what they need to do, make sure they do it right, and rotate your people through. Write a work order, schedule them. So for 1 week, one person, next week, another person, and so on. Ensure that each part's assigned a min, max, and reorder point. So you got a minimum, you got a maximum, and you got a reorder point. And these are reviewed regularly to measure storeroom performance. There's a few metrics. SMRP has some great metrics. One is stockouts. Stockout is when the computer says the parts are in the storeroom, but when you go to the storeroom, they're not there. That's tick 1, tick 2, tick 3. Every time you go there, the computer says it's in there, but it's not. That's a stockout. We got to count them. We don't know how we're going to improve if we don't measure it. Parts turn. How fast is a part going out of the storeroom? Certain types of parts. Like if bearings are being checked out a lot, that tells you may have a systemic bearing failure problem, and it might be lack of lubrication. It's going to get to most of your bearing failures are going to come to one source: improper installation, lack of lubrication or something. But if we track that by part turns, that helps us understand where our potential problems are and we can go after them. I like to do the Jedi, just do it. If I can find something I can go out and impact right now, then it gives management a much more, let's say, freedom to give me freedom, okay, to what I need to do. So what are your expectations of an effective storeroom? Well, I guess it depends on who you are, What does maintenance say? We want to have the right part at the right time. Absolutely. What's production say? Want to have the right part at the right time. So here's the difference, okay? So plant leadership, we want to have the lowest number or value of parts in stock. And I understand that. But you can't cut your way to reliability by cutting parts. You gotta measure the system, measure, the amount of turns a part turns in storeroom. And if it's turning a lot, you need to find out what the root cause of that is. And maybe it's because we got a problem with equipment. I don't know, or maybe I don't know, maybe we got the wrong part. Who knows? But we need a root cause analysis on it. Then we need to have an effective system to manage parts. Now, this one you see in front of you, this is one similar than I saw this week, where you actually use a card reader. You bring your card up and badge it, and then you type in, what is the part number you need, and it brings it up on this elevated system. It's just a rotating system with certain parts in there. So what's the objective of a maintenance storeroom? Provide the right part in like new condition at the right time with the minimum amount of stock. Reactive organizations spend a lot of money buying parts, storing them in the storeroom when they don't really need all those parts if they had effective what? What do I need in order to minimize the amount of parts I need in the storeroom? So I need proactive maintenance. I know that. But what is the one thing I could do to give me that? Anybody? Give me your thoughts on it. Anybody?
We have one saying preventive maintenance scheduling, one saying PDM.
Yeah, and really, you're right. It's planning and scheduling. If we plan and schedule the work, we don't have reactivity. It means we got to have all these parts of the storm. If we plan the job, that means we've got the parts identified. We don't have to have it in the storeroom. It could be if the order from the time when I order it to the time it comes in stock is enough time for me to have the job scheduled, then that's fine. If not, I need it in stock. Okay. But planning and scheduling, if you don't have effective planning and scheduling, all this storeroom modification is out to the wind. It doesn't work. You got to have proactive maintenance planning and scheduling. So what's the minimum amount of stock that you have? I mean, it all depends on how fast that part's are turning, right? How many parts are being checked out in certain categories? Reactive maintenance organization is to have parts ready just in case. Is that a plant recently? Their storeroom was just massive with parts just in case. But unfortunately, most of the parts that they had in the organization wasn't in the storeroom. It was outside the storeroom in the maintenance shop. They had 4 or 5 maintenance shops. Every maintenance shop had their own hidden spares. And that's not good because a lot of them were being stored correctly and a lot of them were used parts. We need to consolidate all our parts must be in the storeroom or in a secure cage for scheduled work. Whereas what we do in scheduled work is the planner plans the job, the part is ordered or pulled out of stock, and then it goes into a secure location on that day that job is starting, like every day during the week. The maintenance supervisor opens the cage. Everybody's got a work order. There's a work order tag on whatever pallet or whatever part they need. It's already in there. It's not in a storeroom. It's a separate cage. They go in there and they remove the parts, they match the work order to it, they grab it and they go do the job. Now, how much more effective would that make us in an organization just by doing something simple as that? That's something within a maintenance leadership control. I don't need a big area. What I did as a maintenance supervisor, I just went to to the plant manager, and I just had to ask him, can you give me a little bit of space so I can start kitting parts? Because I seen what kitting looks like and how good it is. And I explained to him the value of it. And he said, okay, let's do it. And it was that easy. I was like, I was sweating over it. I was like, he's never going to let me do this. But he did. If you don't ask, you don't know if you're going to receive. Okay. Proactive maintenance to have the right part at the right time. So reactive is to have parts ready just in case. Proactive organizations have the right part at the right time. So if we look at this, maintenance material costs, replacement of asset value, okay? So that means it's wherever. So maintenance costs, including material in storeroom stock, plus material in other locations, 1 to 3.5%, okay? That's for a reactive organization. 0.25, you notice that the value just went down. The cost is much lower, 0.25 to 0.75 for world-class organization. That's a big difference in money. That's a huge difference in money. So you're probably asking yourself, what is RAV? RAV or ERV is the monetary value that required to replace the production capability of the present assets in the plant, including production or process equipment, as well as utilities, support, and related assets. It is all your assets. And it says it should not be based on the insured value, depreciated value of the asset. It includes replacement value of the building, grounds, if the assets are maintained by the maintenance expenditures. It does not include value of real estate, only improvement. Now, I have to tell you, the way I do it, because it's hard to get this number is near impossible. So what would it, if my plant were to blow up today and disappear and I had to put a new one there tomorrow, what would it cost? That's not realistic. The only place you can go to set a baseline is find out what the insured value of the plant is. Whatever insured value, that's my baseline. And I'll go from there. Whatever that number is, it is. I don't know if it's good or bad, but we'll start there. Okay. And that will help us then start seeing if we're improving or not. So company A is reactive, 3.5% RAV. And then we look at, this company B, proactive, RAV is 0.75%. Wow. So this means company A is spending 4.6 times in maintenance material costs than company B. 4.6 times. Does that surprise anybody? Anybody, was this a shock to you? Come on, answer me. Yes or no?
Yes. Yes, from myself and 2 yeses in the chat.
I tell you, when we start talking about this to management, it's real simple. It's all about the money. It's all about the money. This is the international standard for how much money we have in stock because of how we operate. Now, understand how we can reduce this. When it says this proactive company, now, if you look at that proactive company, they have all proactive companies that their RAV is very low. Replacement asset value is very low. It's because they have planning and scheduling in place, and it's highly functional. It's working great. People don't come to work dead on their feet every day or just stressed out. They come to work smiling, have a good day. I'm ready to go because everything's here for schedule. So steps to optimize your maintenance storeroom. Identify how much money organizations losing because the storeroom not effective. Just what I just showed you before. How much money are we losing? Set a baseline. How much are we spending overnight delivery, right? Overnight shipping costs. Vendors charging more for a part because we need it right now. Okay, right now. So like I knew this one guy I used to buy parts from. He said he'd always ask me, so how bad do you need it, Ricky? I need it real bad. Why just ask you what the cost was? Why are you asking me that question? He's saying, I just want to know. No, he wants to know if he can mark it up. That's what he wants to know. Production not operating the specification. We're down or not meeting production rate. So we're down too often or we're not meeting production rate. Remember this, and anytime in maintenance, it's all about production. We want them to run as much as they can run and make as much money as they can make, because then my job's secure, the plant's life is secure. Measure your maintenance cost. As I mentioned before, is a percentage of replacement asset value against known standard. ask if you have access to your comptroller or the financial people, ask them, what is it? I was at a plant this week. I just happened to talk to the very senior guy in the corporation was there, and he just happened to ask me, what do you think we need to do first? And this was the first thing we talked about. He said, I'm going to get that number and I'll get it to you. Post this information for all to see and keep it updated weekly. We got to keep people updated because costs, I have to tell you, if we start moving proactive, costs do go up. I'm just being honest with you. It does, because you got to invest. It's like going to a bank and want to pull money out of a bank and you don't even have an account there. So if you think you can just start doing something and say you're going to cut your way to cost savings, it's not going to happen. You're going to have to invest, and from that investment we get return on investment. Educate your team in what best maintenance storeroom practices look like. What do they look like? What does a secure storeroom look like? Controlled access. Max, minimum stock, maximum stock, reorder point. What that is when the minimum level gets to a certain point, if we have a vendor that delivers on time, then we know at a certain point, because equipment is maintainable, then we can then reorder that part and it comes in before the equipment fails. Okay. Safety stock is because some things, if we don't have that part, this plant's down. Okay. That's safety stock. It will always be there. My thing was what always with safety stock is when it hits safety stock, I got to be alerted. If I'm the maintenance manager, I got to be alerted. And I'd say probably the plant manager needs to know too, because that's critical. Just the safety stock. Safety stock is something that's critical to keep the plant running. Single point lessons, educate your team. So not only what a secure storeroom is or what min-max reorder point safety stock is, but a single point lessons. Now, this you can go to my website and download. You don't have to use your email address. Just go to it, worldclassmaintenance.org, not com, O-R-G, worldclassmaintenance.org. I have these like this, and I've got some other ones in there. How do you evaluate your maintenance storeroom? Some great tips in there to help you. Post this, if you're going to do it, post this for everybody to see first. And then when people start talking about, like I've done it a couple places, okay, put this on a plant manager's desk, early in the morning before anybody comes in, and put your name on it. Hey, let's talk about this, sir, if you don't mind, or ma'am, and then when they call you and say, hey, can you come in? Let's talk about this thing you left on my desk. I'm sorry, we're real busy right now, but can I meet you this afternoon or something? So all that time in between when he read it and now he's wanting to talk to me, he's thinking, what does he want to talk to me about? Or she wants to talk to me about? I wonder. So step 3, define roles and responsibilities for all functions in the storeroom, okay? If you look at this RACI chart, on the left side are all the tasks or decisions we have to make. Across the top is all the positions that are going to be involved in this process. So you see parts, the first one at the top, parts, material received to SOP, so our standard operating procedure, who's A is on each line, there's only one A. That's where the buck stops. Okay. This means this one does it, isn't the doer. But if we got to say, why did we not receive the part correctly? There's only one person we're going to, and that's the storeroom manager. Okay. And so measure the performance of your storeroom with a KPI dashboard. You got to measure what you're improving. Okay. Here's a good one. Okay. Start at the left lower. Percentage of parts tagged to an asset. So what percentage of all of our parts are in the storeroom are actually tagged to an asset? That way we know when we go in and look at on our CMMS, we can determine what parts and where they're at in the storeroom. Inventory turns. How fast is this part turning? I mentioned this before. If parts are turning fast, you got a problem. You got a problem. You need to find out, investigate, do a root cause analysis why. Next was percentage of parts with min-max reorder point. What's the minimum? What's the maximum? What's the reorder point? Stock outs. The parts are supposed to be in stock, but they're not there anymore. We need to count that. We need to know what that number is. SMRP has that metric, or you can just send me an email and I'll be glad to share, how I say to measure. Expedited shipping costs. How much is overnight delivery costing us? Just overnight delivery. It's all I want from accounting. Overnight delivery costs that we're spending for this plant total, not by item, but overall. They got that because it's a different line item. inventory value. How much is the value in the storeroom worth? Believe it, in the US, it's supposed to be required by law that every plant knows their inventory value of maintenance and repair parts, okay? Total maintenance material costs, and then total maintenance costs. So maintenance material costs impact total maintenance costs, but I can tell you the labor cost is going to be high if our maintenance material cost is high. All right. So talk about some last words or final words. Assemble a team for change with believers. No negative people allowed. Keep the negativity out. You know, I only want positive people. Okay. I want people that want to do something different. Okay. Remember, it's all about the money. It's not about you or anything else. It's all about the money. We want the company to be successful. We want it to be financially independent. We want it to be successful. Okay. Apply the crawl, walk, run methodology. What that means is don't try to rush and do it all at one time. Do one thing at a time. Put a master plan together, step by step. What are we going to do first, second, third, and so on? Because having this crawl, we start doing things, but we want to do things that make an impact very quickly. But we're not going to walk, we're not going to run to it. We're going to crawl first. We're going to do the right thing and sustain it. And then we're going to start walking, and then we'll start running. Measure what you manage with a dashboard. You know, I mentioned that before. We got to have a dashboard to know where we are in materials management. Knowledge is critical when trying to change anyone's behavior. That's what I was talking about, the toolbox talks. Okay. Maintenance planning and scheduling is critical to any organization's assessment of materials management and asset reliability. Not just material management, but our asset reliability. And what other reliability? Process reliability. Because it's all about production. It really is, because they're the ones who make the money. We don't make the money. We enable them to make the money by doing the right thing. All right. Questions?
All right. If you have any questions, please send them in the chat. I think I saw one earlier, but hopefully it was answered. I think it was just kind of in line with something you were saying.
If it wasn't answered, just ask it again.
Sure. All it says is, does that include repair parts? I think it was from pretty early in the presentation. So
yeah, I probably already answered that. Repair parts, so, absolutely. Yeah. All parts are repair parts, especially if they're maintenance parts.
Yeah. Any other questions for Ricky? We'll give you guys another minute or two.
Or you could email me if you have a question.
Absolutely. Or Ricky is available in the maintenance community Slack group. Yep. He will answer questions there happily. So what is the one most important thing, Ricky? That's one question that we just got.
That's a good question. What's the one most important thing? Knowledge. Knowing what best practices look like. You know, the one thing. And part of that best practice is what you're looking at right now, maintenance planning and scheduling. If you can't do but one thing, start planning and scheduling. Planning and scheduling by day, by hour. Okay. If you're not planning very good or scheduling very good, just schedule it. You know, at least get good scheduling working, but you got to have good planning when you have scheduling. If you don't have a planner, take the best maintenance technician knows how to use a computer. You're not running off chasing parts all the time. Make them a planner. You don't have to. If you're a maintenance supervisor listening to this or a maintenance manager, you don't have to make it a new position. You can just write a work order and assign them to do that. Schedule them every day to do that. All right. Anything else?
Yes, we got one more question. Thank you for that answer. The next question is, what KPIs would you recommend to start with? Basic and easy ones to achieve with inventory upkeep. If you have someone lagging behind, what would you recommend to get them with everyone else? I think that's two questions.
Stock outs. Stock outs. That means the computer says it's in stock and we go to it, it's not in stock. Just measure that one. That'll tell you a lot. People won't want to see the number. If you don't like the number, don't ask the question. Okay. Because stock outs is what it's all about.
Someone says, I think SPIR is also playing a very important role in optimizing the spare parts in the storeroom. Do you agree?
SPIR? What is SPIR?
Ahmed, will you please tell us what SPIR is?
You caught me on that one, man.
Holding tight for a follow-up. Spare parts interchangeability records, Ricky.
Oh, spare parts and inventory records?
Interchangeability records is what Ahmed says.
What is he asking about?
He says, I think that SPIR, spare parts interchangeability records, is also playing a very important role in optimizing the spare parts storeroom. Do you agree?
Absolutely, 100%. And we got to have that inventory record. We got to have it, and that's why it's critical to have it attached to whatever assets we're checking the parts out to. And right now, you can start tomorrow by writing a work order and charge it to an asset, those parts, and then it starts building that inventory record. Because that tells you where your problems are too. If it's taking a lot of parts, checking out a lot of parts for a machine, that'll tell you if you got a problem. All right. Anything else?
Nothing else in the chat. So I think that'll bring us to the end of our time today. Again, Ricky is available in the Maintenance Community Slack group, on LinkedIn, or via email if you have any other questions for him about this topic or anything else. Ricky, you want to share a little bit more about your upcoming workshop there?
Yes, 3 days. Most of the people are going to be virtual. Very few are going to be live, but most of it's going to be virtual, just like you have here. But I'll have exercises. They'll be sent out to you. So if you join it, I'll send you the slides. I'll send you the exercises so you can use them, not just in the class, but you can use them back at work to help you, improve planning and scheduling at your organization. Because I don't believe in just going to a class and somebody giving you a fire hose. I believe in giving you information, but also teaching you along the way. How do we plan correctly, more effectively? How do we schedule work more effectively? And we interact a lot talking about challenges that you face. So we have the time, not like this 1 hour program. We have the time to talk about it, discuss it. I put a few people in certain groups so they can work together too, virtually. So it works well.
We have a question on cost. I believe if you email Ricky with interest, he will send you more details about cost and how to sign up. Is that right, Ricky?
Yep. Cool. The cost of this program is $750 US dollars, $750 per person. Okay.
All
right.
Thank you so much, Ricky. Thank you everyone for joining. We will see you next time, and we'll send this recording soon. Thanks.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Heather.
Yeah, thanks, Ricky.